Alright guys, so like I said before, I was gonna make a video on the IM and the K-swap, and basically also kind of like a summary on what happened, and kind of why I'm doing this really. And yeah, let's get right to it. All right, so for starters, what is this? So basically, this is a Scion or Corolla IM. These were built from 2016 in Scion form under the Scion brand, and from 2017 and 18 as Corolla IM. And in other markets, it's known as the Auris, Toyota Auris. So that one goes from 2012, I think, all the way to 2019-ish or 18 maybe. So it's basically the same car. It's basically a Corolla, really. It just has independent rear suspension in the back, and Corolla interior, Corolla drivetrain, or it used to have. So the reason I'm K-swapping it now is because I used to have the original 1.8 liter boosted. It was a 6-speed manual, and the transmission was, hit or miss. And the engine was handling it like a champ and handled it for like 2 years really. But this hose right here, it got brittle and it snapped off. So this is for the boost controller, right? And basically when that popped off, it just sent all the boost. So it was tuned for 13 PSI, and obviously it went all the way up to 22 PSI, and it didn't like that. So that's why when it blew, it burned all this, caught on fire, and it burned this main harness. So I gotta fix this. And as for why I'm K-swapping it, I always wanted to make it all-wheel drive, but to do that with all Toyota parts, it would require some Celica GT4 parts, which are super expensive. And I would need to pair that transmission to the original 1.8, and that would seem like it's doable. It's just not that easy to do. It's not a bolt-on affair, kind of. So you gotta do some stuff. And then also, the transmission is expensive. All the drivetrain parts are expensive. And then if I went the whole Trieste GTE build, the engine itself is expensive. And then the engine, some of them like to crack the block. I don't know which generations it is, but it's something that happens enough to be talked about often on the forums. So that's why I opted to just K-swap, since we were doing a K-swap on the EG. The EG is off to body shop, so the engine was just laying around, and we just pulled the original engine out, and we put this one in, and lo and behold, it's a pretty direct fit for the most part. So these are 8th-gen Civic Si mounts for the K20 C3 that it comes with. So what I did was I used this bracket from, these are Bull Boost. I don't know if any other brand makes them with this bracket. So I know Bull Boost is kind of like a cheap brand, but So I'm using this bracket that it came with. It just rests on top of this. Originally it goes over here, the original mount for the 1.8. So I shifted forward a little bit. And then for this mount, I just used the original bracket for the 1.8, and then I used these tabs from the kit that it came with, the Bull Boost kit. So I tag welded those in, and then for here, the mount on this C3, it's supposed to be on the back to the crank, the oil pan. So what I did was, since this is just a mount that it just controls rotation, I put it here. And then I used this bracket for, from the original transmission on the car, the original 6-speed 1.8. So this used to go on the transmission side. So for the Corolla, this bracket, instead of being on the actual chassis, it's actually on the transmission. So it's not like this one, which is, the other way around. But yeah. And then I welded these studs. So this just slots in, you bolt it down. slide this in, you bolt it through and bolt it through. And no, that's not the radiator support. So it's an actual structural part. That's where the original 1.8 mount goes. So that's really part of the subframe. So it should be able to handle all the power. So that should be good. And yeah, this is basically all the space you need. I would argue that if you were going to go K24, since the the passenger side mount changes, you would probably go with 9th gen kit, this same kit, but like for the 9th gen. So probably this is taller, and it should fit the same more or less, since it's basically the same mounts, the same. The 8th gen and 9th gen Civics are basically the same car for the most part. On the bones, I would say. But don't quote me on that. Yeah, that was easy enough. And then for axles, the IM is actually 26 spline. The problem is that the axles on Toyota, they're a little bit longer. So these are longer than the Honda ones. So it does go in. It's just the threads are short. So you can get it, you can tighten the nut, but it won't, it should be fine, because honestly, it grabs like this much. So really what's not grabbing is just the part that you hammer in, just so that it doesn't get loose. So as long as you're on top of it not being loose, it should be fine. But, yeah, I might need to go with custom, axles anyway, because the ones that we got for the EG, they're too short. So, I'll need to measure and do that anyway. So, the other option I could see as a possibility would be the MR2 K-swap axles, which are just Toyota, they should be this exact same style. And they're also 26 spline. So, I don't know, but no one has gotten back to me, and anyone that sells them hasn't gotten back to me with length measurements and shit. So I can't really confirm that. So it'll probably just be an affair of contacting someone that, makes custom axles and just have them make me one, for this application. And then for the rear, since, this is going to be all-wheel drive, I don't know if you can see there. So that's the transfer case, and that's basically, that's basically the tunnel right there. It's gonna get cut. Cause it's basically kind of like, the 8th gens and the 9th gen. When you make them all-wheel drive, you have to cut the rear of the tunnel, because it kind of slopes down as it goes. So you have the first half of the tunnel, and then it slopes down. So you gotta complete the whole tunnel, basically. So I gotta do that. And then, so for the rear, I'm gonna use RAV4 hubs, which they are a bolt-on affair with the IM suspension. So the thing about the IM is that it's basically ready to go for all-wheel drive for the most part, because this came all-wheel drive overseas. So the whole suspension, I already, compared all the part numbers and shit. The whole suspension, for the most part, is already compatible for all-wheel drive. So the only things that aren't compatible are the sway bar, the subframe itself, and obviously the hubs. So the hubs, they're bolt-on, so you gotta remove them and throw in some RAV4 hubs, which are the same that the all-wheel drive Auris uses. So that's pretty simple, honestly. And then you can also retain the ABS sensors, since you just source some Auris ABS sensors, and then they'll plug right up to this car. So that's pretty much, all sorted for the all-wheel drive. The rear axles are also 26 spline for the hubs, so it should just be an affair of getting custom axles made. And then a custom mount, kind of like the Civics. Honestly, this is just mostly like Civic. Like if you grab a 9th gen or 8th gen Civic, or even an RSX, and make it all-wheel drive. Basically, that's what I'm gonna do here, with the exception of the axles, which, you know, I could use them, but they're either too short or maybe too long. I don't know about the rear yet, but the fronts are definitely too short for the IM, so I'm just gonna have to go with custom ones. So, like I said before, for the front and rear. And then the drive shaft, you know the deal. S1 Built makes them, you know, custom length. So as long as the rear diff is a CRV and the transmission is a CRV, I should be fine. I just need to measure, you know, from flange to flange and give them that measurement, and they'll have me covered for that. So that's not really an issue. And I don't know what else. It's gonna be fuel tech. I'm aiming for around 600 horsepower, maybe 500. Not sure, but I'm not sure if I want to force the engine yet. So I'll ask Prestige Performance, Carlos from Prestige Performance. See what he recommends, and I'll go from there. But he's probably gonna recommend just spring retainers and, you know, the basic stuff, maybe like a Type S oil pump, and, you know, send me on my way with a stock engine, for the horsepower that I'm aiming for, at least. So, but, you know, building it would be just for the, you know, for the peace of mind. And as far as, you know, turbo setup and all that, basically, this is what I'm aiming for. This is also for the EG. All these parts are for the EG, not the turbo. This is just a mock-up turbo. So, what I'm trying to do here is have the exhaust go to the back. The tunnel on the IM is obviously larger than the EG's. Obviously it's a newer vehicle, has more space, it's wider. So, hopefully I can get that done. But we'll see, with the drive shaft and all that. It's gonna have to wait, but, yeah. So obviously turbo's gonna be on top. You know, this is a pretty typical setup for K series as well, other than this sidewinder. So we're gonna do, you know, come off of here and then to a dual back door intercooler. So center feed here, come down here, you know, all that good stuff. And then for the AC, what I'm gonna be doing is this right here. The fitting, the diameter here is the same size as the EGs. So the only different thing is how it's held down. So what I could do is get one of those kits for the AC tuck kit for the EGs, or maybe even, I don't know if RSXs have that, but something like that basically. And then just, you know, hook it up like I would on an EG, basically. You know, tuck all the lines and shit over here. And then also the wires for the, pressure switch are right here. And then this harness is gonna run also through the fender. So that's gonna be perfect, because I could just use this and then use the, original, sensor. I don't know if the threads are the same, but even if they're not, I could just use an adapter. It should be fine, as long as it reads. So, because the whole AC system for this car is basically just the control, in the dashboard. So that should be fine. I think it only gets one signal to the, PC, and I'm going to keep that right where it is. I don't even want to touch that. So, I'm going to do away with anything that has to do with the engine, but for the most part, everything's just going to be right here. Maybe I'll, send like a RPM signal to it just so that it knows that the engine is running. You know, for whatever reason, just to keep it, you know, working. Cause I do have, 2017 and 2018 Corolla IMs. They have the cameras right here, for all that lane keep and all that shit. So, you know, obviously I'm going to keep ABS as well. So there's a lot of things that I want to keep. I don't want to do like a whole engine tuck and shave, style. I just want to really, I'm honestly going to tuck this just because it's the only thing that's going to be here. So I'm going to tuck this, and then for this, everything's just kind of like sectioned off right here. So I'm probably just going to do like a cover or something, just to, you know, make it look a little bit cleaner, but otherwise I'm not going to touch it. I'm not going to weld any of the holes or anything like that. I'm just going to leave it like this. Obviously I'm going to clean it up and see what I got to work with, and then probably just repaint it. But other than that, I'm just going to leave it as is. So you can't even see any of this cause this, cowl cover goes over here. Also, this is a 2-part cowl cover. Use like a metal sheet that goes over here. So that's going to be kind of a problem with the turbo. Obviously, this is not going to be the turbo, like I said before. So I don't know the exact size, but it might be a little bit bigger, might be a little bit smaller. I'm not sure, but it's definitely going to hit. So that's one of the things that I need to do I got to modify it. And I wouldn't have any problems with that if the wiper motor and mechanism wasn't, bolted to it, but it is. So we're going to see, we're going to address that as we go. So that's one of the things that I got to look for. Other than that, it's just a basic, swap. I got all the lines and shit that I got to do. I'm thinking of going, turning it on and, getting it ready and running, front wheel drive first, and then go all the rear wheel drive and shit. Cause you can run them, front wheel drive with this transmission. So I don't see any issue with just buying a all wheel drive transmission and just sending it front wheel drive and then tuning it and all that first, since they tuned them in front wheel drive anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I've seen so many cars that are, so many, K-swaps that are all-wheel drive, and they just pull the drive shaft out and then they tune it in front-wheel drive. So it shouldn't really matter. But yeah, so this is the plan for this car. It's really nothing groundbreaking or anything. It's just, it's always looked so aggressive from outside that, now it's gonna match the, performance side. I mean, it was pretty fast. I'm not gonna say fast, but it was alright. I had 319 horsepower with the 1.8, but, for today's standards, it's not much, but, 300 horsepower is a lot of fun in itself, especially when you have the traction. These are 255, 40 R17s. So definitely, meaty tires. I don't know what else to tell you guys, really. The whole wiring is going to be, plug and play wiring harness for a universal, application to the fuel tech. So it's just going to be a matter of, giving that harness power where it needs it and ground where it needs it. Yeah, it comes with its own comes with its own fuse box and all that. So that's pretty much it. But basically the goal is to keep as much OEM things as I can and just basically have the PC think that it's, the engine's not running for the most part, kind of, or it's at idle, maybe. So as long as the fuel tech controls this engine and this one just controls AC and, whatever, or maybe I can just do the, fuel tech, have control of the AC and all that, should be fine. Yeah, here she is. This is the ground clearance. If you're wondering, it does sit kind of tall, but it clears. I don't know if you can see that with the glare from the sun, but I'll do it from this side. So yeah. So I should be good with clearance with the hood. Also the hood has kind of like a bulge anyway, so even though it's not that much, it might not seem like much here, it definitely is when you have the hood on, because it kind of like bulges out a little bit. So, yeah, it's basically gonna be the basic stuff for the K series, the whole billet stuff here, the whole, intake plenum, the whole, billet, everything basically. Yeah, it's gonna be like also for the shifter, it's gonna be a RSX kit RSX kit, cause this transmission shifts like the RSX. So yeah, RSX, shifter with cables and all that. That should be pretty easy. And then for the power steering, it's just gonna be stock power steering. We already got that working on, my friend's, K-swap IM. His is K24. He didn't use these mounts or anything like that. And since he wasn't going all-wheel drive, you know, his engine sits a whole lot lower than this. So, and he has a lot of clearance still with the oil pan. But yeah, that's basically it. Honestly, it's not a whole lot going on. I already have the brakes. Basically, just gonna upgrade the pads, you know, maybe get new rotors for that. But these are Acura TL calipers, the Type S. The suspension's already set. All that's good to go. I got Tane, flexi coilovers, and then, you know, they're adjustable and all that. And yeah, bucket seats, all that shit. You know, the typical. The exterior, for the most part, is already, you know, set up the way I like it. Maybe revisit some things. I'm definitely gonna revisit the exhaust side, cause right now it has a dual exhaust. Let's see if I can show you guys. So right now it has a dual exhaust, and, it has a diffuser right here. So this diffuser needs to go, cause obviously the differential and all that shit. I gotta move the sway bar. It kind of does like a U shape, like that, towards the front. So basically what I'm gonna do is flip it over so that it does that same thing, but for the rear, and then have it at the same height as it is right now, and make some brackets for it. Some sturdy brackets, just so that I can use that exact same sway bar without, you know, having to, you know, go without it. So I need to do that, and to do that, I'm probably gonna need to lose the diffuser anyway. And then for the dual exhaust, it meets in the middle where the differential would be. So really that has to go. I'm probably gonna do like a single exhaust now. So yeah. I don't know if I'm gonna do like a bumper exit. I'm not sure yet, honestly, but we'll see. So yeah, that's basically it. You know, that's the gist of it. And then here you can see we got our other Civic, and that's Garnet right here. Are you miserable? I'm recording a video. He doesn't like to be on camera, so the last time you'll see him. And this is Suki. Yeah, she's a bit of a aggressive lover. So yeah, that's basically all it is. It's nothing fancy. It's just a case swap, basically as I would in an EG, but you know, a little bit of a custom mount, and then a little bit of custom axles. Just a little bit of fabrication. But yeah, the next video is gonna be about the engine right here, the blue, and that setup. You know, I know you guys have been asked, some of you guys have been asking, you know, what setup I had and what part it made and all that. I'll get into detail on that in that video. And then probably just make another video on the EG, which we're gonna go pick up on Saturday. And maybe I'll touch on my Civic right here. So this is my daily driver right now. It's having some problems. Like I said, it's a restoration project for the most part. So I'll get into that, you know, in that video. See you guys.